So, depending on how acquainted you are with Whitney related lore, you may or may not know that I am in an era of not wanting to promote my books online. Um, I guess like you could argue like, what are you doing right now, bitch? And I would say I'm not MK Low right now. I am Wit posting, and it's different to like share your authentic feelings and experiences on the internet. That's different than like number one trying to sell a product, and number two like being on a never-ending quest for validation. Those are completely different things. So, I don't even really have to promote my books anymore because people who know me in real life gossip about my books. They tell each other about them. They get nosy. They buy them. They read them. Then they tell someone else about them. And the books are pretty much promoting themselves at this point, at least in like my small town. So, yeah, I don't even have to fucking promote. It's cool. But like the number one question I get asked, and once again, I'm not like an internet author. I'm a real life author. And I like that. But the question I get asked the most is like, so how much of that was real? And I feel like that's an odd question to ask a fiction author. But and I would assume like this question meant like, so where does the inspiration for your ideas come from? And I would be like, oh cool, you want to hear about my childhood trauma? You want to hear about like the paranormal experiences I've had in my life? But no, that's not what they're asking. What they're asking is if I'm a submissive. Because people just assume that I'm Willa because in real life I'm pretty quiet and demure unless I get like an extrovert who like forces me out of my shell and hypes me up. Like, and aside from my occasional manic episodes, I'm very quiet and reserved in real life. So people just assume since Willa's, shy and has social anxiety that I must be Willa. Willa is me. It's a self-insert. And really, and it's funny that they hold this idea of me of being Willa, but at the same time, they accuse me of glorifying the darker aspects of my work, which is something Willa would never do. Willa is like a pure light being. I'm nothing like Willa. I'm more like Mina, but really I'm Raiden. If I'm anybody in my own books, I'm Raiden. Shows how well y'all know me. So anyway, since I get asked that question a lot, I thought it would be kind of fun. As I'm reading, we've been working on Awake. We've been trying to finish it. As I'm reading a couple scenes to you, I'll talk to you a little bit about like where these ideas come from. I've made a video before a few months ago. It's on TikTok. You can look it up for yourself. MK Low is the account. And I'm saying that our art comes from somewhere else, like outside of the artist a lot of times. And I'm going to be talking about, like, sometimes the ideas come through your experiences. Sometimes you meet somebody with, like, an interesting character quirk, and you inject that into a character that's already established. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But mostly, art comes from somewhere else outside of yourself. I don't really know what to call this. Like, some kind of consciousness, divine consciousness. But it also could not be divine. And it could also be, like, really negative and bad. Like, you can channel into higher realms, and you can channel into lower realms. And I think I do a little bit of both. So basically it's like an iCloud, or like the cloud on the iPhone. It's like up there in the ether, and like you can like go into a meditative state, I guess, a channeling state, and you can like tap into it. And different people can tap into the same things, but through their different perspective, what they get on paper will be completely different. But it's available. It's like this consciousness thing that you could tap into. It's available for anybody who's able to maladaptive daydream or channel or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, in between scenes, I'll talk to you a little bit about where these ideas come from, at least the ideas that are coming from me. Alright, so while I don't read like everything on camera as I'm working on it, so I've skipped a couple chapters where I'm at now since the last time I read on camera. The very last thing I read, I think, was Raiden like handcuffing Mina and like putting tape over her mouth and tape around her legs, and then he like cuddles with her on the couch and watches Lord of the Rings, which is really random. But anyway, he had just like unalived somebody, and then his friend James was coming over to help him and Mina, Raiden and Mina, dispose of the body of Charles, who was in the secret society cult, and he came to the house trying to kill Mina, or like not kill her, I guess, but bring her back to the church so they could all have a taste of the new angel. And Raiden was like, nah, I'm good on that. And then he just fucking decapitated him. And definitely like touch her and die vibes, okay? So, yeah, so James came, and Raiden's like, you're riding with James. And anyway, Mina tried to kill James, and then Raiden threw her in the trunk of Charles's car with Charles's corpse, right, for the rest of the ride because, you know, Mina was like, James was driving, Mina was the passenger, and she tried to kill him. And so she went in the trunk with the dead body. So they arrived to Tasties, also known as Yummies in the fictional universe of Manifesting Decadence. And look, I'm about to tell you where Manifesting Decadence came from. But hang on one second. So it's his family's lake house. It's his grandparents' lake house, right? But it was once a restaurant/bar that was open during the Prohibition period called God, I forget. Like in real life, I think it's Tasties, and in Manifesting Decadence, it's Yummies. So he goes, it's like, yeah, so it was once a bar open during Prohibition times, and in real life, right, in the fictional universe of Call of the Void, real life, they weren't only trafficking alcohol when it was illegal, they were trafficking cocaine, drugs, and human beings. So that's nice. Eventually, I popped open the trunk expecting Mina to jump out and try to fight me, but she didn't move. I exchanged glances with James before I pulled her out of the trunk away from Charles's corpse. I know I'm on bad terms with both of you right now, she said, staring off into space as I set her on her feet. The wind blew her hair. I brushed it out of her face. Spinning her around, I pushed her forward towards a shed, or what appeared to be a shed, on the outside. But can we hit pause on this feud? No. But simultaneously, James said yes. I gave him a pointed look. He glared right back. Let's hear what she has to say. It's a trap, I replied. Obviously. But we can still listen. What is it, Willie? She's Mina now, I snapped, trailing behind Mina with one hand wrapped around the chain of her handcuffs so she couldn't get any ideas about running. I had deja vu in the trunk. Something like that happened to me before. While you were gone? I asked, referring to the prison dimension. No, I was always afraid of the closet in my childhood bedroom. I had these nightmares of something coming out to get me, long before I ever had sleep paralysis. Something bad happened to me when I was very young. She's just trying to get pity from us, I told James. What happened to you? James took the bait, despite my warning. Raiden knows, she replied. There's a lot he hasn't told you. There's a lot he keeps from both of us. Like what? James asked. Don't fall for her manipulation, I told him. Mina froze, looking over her shoulder at me. Who's George, Raiden? My throat went dry. James was also staring at me, anticipating my response. He already knew the answer. We, along with Wilhelmina's own mother, agreed years ago that she was better off not knowing. That's not relevant to you, I replied. You owe me answers, asshole. These fucked up flashes of memories are the reasons why I'm sick, like everybody says. I pushed her to keep moving, but she dug her heels into the dirt. Stop blaming your bad behavior on your childhood trauma. Everyone's been through shit. Grow up! We should take her to the hospital, James urged. No, Mina and I responded in unison. Doctors won't believe me. They can't help me, she said, staring at the lake house. The view was beautiful to behold. Gramps couldn't part with Yummies. Oh, I guess it was Yummies, not Tasties. My bad. What do I know? The bar stood empty for years before they had it renovated into his vacation home. Seldomly, he fished here, but I spent a lot of time on the property, and I'd never seen him once. The exterior was more aesthetic than the interior. The layout on the first floor was odd, echoing its origins to a bar/restaurant. Outside it appeared to be a cozy wooden cabin, only bigger. The wraparound porch surrounded the place, and the balcony in the back overlooked Lake Nippenicket. What the fuck? I mean, yeah, this is a real lake near Freetown, Massachusetts. Nippenicket. Nippenicket? Lake Nippenicket? That's a weird name, but whatever. She stole your phone, James said, changing the subject the second the conversation came to a pause. I thanked him as he handed it back to me. She wanted to contact Heather Caldwell, pretending to be you so she could kill her and scalp her. His rushed tone put emphasis on the severity of this situation. I knew I should have reacted in mock shock for his sake, but all I could do was smile. Alright, so do you want to talk about Heather Caldwell? Or where Manifesting Decadence came from? I guess since I said I'm going to be, telling you about where the ideas for the stories come from, I'll start with Manifesting Decadence, because when I talk about Heather, it's going to be kind of the opposite of where an idea came from. More of the idea of manifestation. So, the Friday before spring break, April, I want to say 2004, I and a friend who Danielle is based off of in this book, almost like to a fucking T. Although Danielle isn't really in the book a whole lot, she's more referenced as like a past friend. I don't even know if she'll have any screen time at all, which I mean makes sense because she doesn't have like screen time in my real life anymore. Like we're on Facebook friends, but we don't talk a lot. So anyway, like me and her, we had early release that day, the day before spring break, and neither of us told our parents. Well, I only had a mom and she only had a dad, but neither of us told our mom/dad, whatever, you know what I'm saying, that it was early release. So the plan was just to kind of hang out and like be free after school after early release, right? Because our parents didn't expect us home that early because they didn't know it was early release. So we were just like, okay, we weren't just wandering around. I was going to say we were wandering around, but now that I'm saying it all out, I remember that we were literally stalking some boy. What was his, Benjamin, I believe was his name. And we were following him home because I thought he was cute. So yeah, that's what we were doing. And anyway, almost like, you know, a couple houses down from his house was this abandoned house. And the abandoned house had caught my eye, but also there was a box in the middle of the sidewalk. And so while I was staring at this abandoned house, like thinking I want to like explore that shit, my friend Daniela, I don't even know if she would want me to name her, but my friend, she kicked this random box that was in the sidewalk, right? And the box was addressed to this house, although it hadn't been sent through the mail. And it was addressed to Aaron Brands and then the address of this house, right? But not sent through the mail. It was just written on there. And it was in front of the house, on the sidewalk in front of the house. So she kicked this box and 2 bird heads came out. It was ring-necked doves. The heads of them, only the heads. I don't think the bodies were in there. And we were like, oh shit, that's weird, you know? And we were talking about, you know, like, how did this happen? That was this an accident? Someone was going to bury the heads. And she was saying, being like a Latina from Cuba, she was saying that she was pretty sure, she was more like aware of witchcraft, I guess, than I was at the time. Like non-Americanized witchcraft, like Santeria type stuff. She was saying that it was almost definitely like a sacrifice. It was a form of witchcraft. And she was like, you know what, we need to get the hell out of here. Right? But I think we did go into the backyard that same day. And it smelled really weird, and there was like a fence, part of the fence was broken, and there was like scratches on it. I swear there was blood on it, believe me or not, I don't care. I have these memories in my head and she can confirm it. So after we had seen this house, like over spring break, right, because spring break followed and we spent a lot of that spring break together. God, it was it really? Yeah, it was 2004. That sounds like it was so long ago. We both kind of got this idea in our heads that the house had cursed us and was causing, we were both already emo kids, we were already depressed, we were already outcasts, but we were convinced that this house put some kind of negative juju on us and that we were now cursed because it was like Murphy's Law, like anything that could go wrong was going wrong in our lives. Even like our parents, like her dad and my mom were changing, like in our minds, like her dad beat her ass one time. And she blames like some sort of demonic influence. And just like a lot of little weird things were just happening to us constantly. So, oh yeah, and I almost forgot like where Manifesting Decadence came from. So, this is what inspired like in the Call of the Void universe for Willa to find Raiden's abandoned house where his mother killed his father. And getting basically like haunted from getting like some sort of disease from going within this house. Some kind of like mental contagious demonic attachment. That's where that idea came from, right? So I almost forgot. In real life, this really happened, believe me or not. There was a VHS tape, like buried in the dirt under a swing of this abandoned house that we found. And we found it, that's, you know, that same day we found that VHS. And it turned out to be, I took it home, it turned out to be in Spanish and I didn't speak Spanish. So I handed it off to Danielle, who did speak Spanish. I'm calling her by her character name in the book, just to protect her privacy, I guess. So I handed it off to her, and according to her, it was about some kind of infectious mind disease that makes, like, suicidal thoughts contagious. So it was, I guess, almost like The Happening. Once again, I don't speak Spanish, so I can't confirm this. But some sort of, like, small, low-budget production from somewhere in South or Central America where it was like a contagious epidemic of suicide. So this kind of fueled like the belief system that we had that this house had cursed us. So that's where manifesting decadence comes from. In the book, manifesting decadence causes sleep paralysis upon the victim, and it is a form of spiritual warfare. I talked a little too about, as an author, like, sometimes you're taking, like, sometimes the ideas do come from you, and sometimes there's something, like, dark in your mind, something, like, physical, like, heavy and dark in your mind, and it's an energy, right? It comes from trauma, from bad times. It's an energy, and you can't destroy energy, but you can place it, you can relocate it to somewhere else. You can take it from your head to the page, and then when a reader reads it, it's in their head. So it's gone from your head to their head, right? Does that make sense? And it doesn't sound like a very nice thing to say, like that. Art sometimes, I mean, art really does fucking influence you. Sometimes it influences you negatively, and sometimes reading something dark puts you in a dark headspace, you know? And at least I'm fucking telling you the truth. You know, most artists, I've never heard another fucking artist say this shit. At least I'm telling you the truth. So don't be like, oh bitch, why are you trying to like implant my mind with darkness? But at least I'm up front. All right, if you read my books after knowing that, you're giving me consent to put my dark shit in your mind. So yes, that is where manifesting decadence comes from. I'm not really going to get into like the plot of the Manifesting Decadence is a book in the Call of the Void universe. It's a fictional book. It's not really fictional, but I can't like give you more information than that because I don't have the hours and hours to explain it. Like, read my fucking books if you're that curious. Okay. So on to Heather Caldwell, and then we'll read a little bit more. So with the whole Heather Caldwell thing, that is, so I said already, sometimes I take like unique character traits, quirks, about either their personality of people in their life or their physical appearance, and I inject that into characters that I've already established in my mind, right? Just to add a little bit of realism. Like, if I think something is interesting about a person, then I like to put it into my books, because then I'm like making it live forever, like this quirk that I find intriguing about a person. I'm granting it eternal life in a way. So I have like two best friends, okay? Really, just two friends, period, if I'm being honest. And my second friend, the friend that I made secondly, the way we met is kind of crazy. It was almost, it was like dead inside. Like, I don't know how to explain it. We were coworkers briefly, and like, I wanted nothing to do with her, and she wouldn't leave me alone. And eventually, I got attached to her, and we became besties. Okay. She's cool. I like her now. But I didn't like her at first. So anyway, my point is, she's very supportive of my author career. Like, she's one of the few who promotes my books in a positive way and doesn't like talk shit about me. But her appearance, like, I have to warn her before Awake comes out. And Heather Caldwell has been mentioned in Wildest Dreams. She was probably mentioned in passing in Silent Screams. I don't know for sure. But the point is that she looks identical to my friend. And obviously I created Heather Caldwell. Awake has existed, I want to say, 4 years. So it's existed, this book has been written in rough drafts before that I met my friends, right? But this character of Heather Caldwell looks almost exactly like my best friend. Like, white blonde hair, tall, described with large breasts, blue eyes. And I feel like that's a pretty rare look for a person. But that's the way my best friend looks, and I'm just going to have to explain to her, like, I didn't base this character on you, okay? Because something kind of unhinged happens to Heather Caldwell. I mean, she does get murdered, but it's not on page. Mina basically, well, I'll probably end up reading it to you anyway, so I'm just going to have to give her a warning. Anyway, I kind of feel like I manifested my friend this way through this character of Heather Caldwell. I don't know. And she's also referred to in the book, like, as a mean kind of nickname, Ghost Girl. Well, Mina hates her. I'll go ahead and explain this part. Mina hates her because Heather Caldwell was her older sister, Sarah's best friend. And Heather witnessed Sarah's murder. So did Willa. And as Willa was running to the scuffle, to the situation that was unfolding, Heather was running away from it. They smacked into each other in the woods. Heather kept running. her sister, Willa's sister, was murdered in front of her. Willa tried to tell the cops, like Heather is a witness too, and Heather like acted like Willa was crazy, said she was making it all up. So Willa for a long time has wanted revenge against Heather, and she started stalking her, basically like trying to scare her into going to the police and like dignifying Willa's story. So anyway, then she found out that Heather was also hooking up with Raiden, that Raiden lost his virginity to Heather. So that's another reason why Wilhelmina, I call her Willa, I'm calling her Willa because prior to 2007, December of 2007, she was Willa. That was before her personality switched. Wildest Dreams Willa is different than the Willa I'm referring to, okay? I should be saying Wilhelmina for clarity, but she went by Willa back then too. She went by Willa pretty much always until Wake, which is the only time she's really going by Mina, except that she told Raiden her name was Mina when they originally met, and she was also lying about her age. So anyway, yeah, this Heather Caldwell character is fun. Mina really fucking hates her, and eventually does try to get revenge against her. So I do feel like I kind of manifested my friend into my life by creating a character, though, that's identical to her, physical appearance-wise. Squeezing Mina's shoulders, I asked, "Want to see my bunker?" She looked up at me, rightfully skeptical of my intentions. Then her gaze darted to James, who may have offered her the illusion of safety. "Bunker?" she questioned. "You really are one of those doomsday people." "Miles got him into it," James explained. "He bought a lot of that stuff. It's not really a bunker." James chuckled as he took my place behind Mina and I moved around her. "It's part of the old tunnel system that was built into the property." So once again, the property they're referring to is Yummy's, which was originally a bar that opened during Prohibition times, and that's why there's tunnels. All of which are sealed all except for one small area, I added as I walked around Mina and slid the key into the lock of the shed door. Sandwiched between James and me, Mina said, "Just like in Manifesting Decadence." James groaned at the mention of the novel. A ride-on lawnmower took up most of the space in the tiny shed. In front of the single storage shelf that held my grandfather's things, we gathered in a small circle. "You were right all along," I said, looking directly at Mina, whose haunted expression was replaced with a prideful smile at my admission. "Gerald wrote about what my dad went through when he and his friends tried to take down my grandpa's corrupt business partner." "Hold up!" James paused before asking his question. "She was right about Gerald being the author?" Pause. "Do you know who Gerald is?" Gerald he's a pastor of a church called the Church of Athu, and Raiden used to go to AA. He was actually a temporary chairperson of this AA meeting until he found out that Gerald is basically like the leader of this fucking cult, right? Gerald is actually Raiden's grandpa. But you don't know that right now. I don't know why I just told you that. Do you know? Oh, you do know. You would know if you read Silent Screams. It's revealed at the end of Silent Screams. Okay, that's who Gerald is. So in cahoots with his mother, Raiden didn't know this for years. They were buddies when Raiden was attending this AA group within Gerald's church. And also, Gerald is the one who killed Sarah. Gerald used to have a youth group for troubled teens, right? But it got shut down when Sarah supposedly killed herself under his watch, but really he killed her. And that's why, Willa hates Heather Caldwell, because Heather witnessed the murder but denied that it ever happened. So that's who Gerald is. So she was right about Gerald being the author of the Manifesting Decadence book. Gerald didn't just write Manifesting Decadence under the pen name Joseph Parrish. Gerald was my grandfather's corrupt business partner. So I know that sounds confusing because Gerald is also Raiden's grandpa, but people have more than one grandpa. My grandmother told us everything. The book, my grandmother told us everything. The book is a little different. Gerald wrote it the way that he wished it happened, I explained to James. "Do you remember the character Liliana?" Mina asked him. "The prostitute." "She wasn't a prostitute. She was a human trafficking victim," Mina corrected. "Her real name is Lydia Diaz. She's Danielle Diaz's aunt. I'm her reincarnation." James snorted. "Did Raiden's grandmother tell you that too?" Mina scoffed. "Even after learning that I've been right all along about everything, you still doubt me? Some things never change." James scowled at her. "I'm not going to just believe everything you say without question." Sarah would be alive if you did, but why do you care? She shrugged. You never loved her. You were just using her to hide the fact that you're a... Mina! I cut her off. No, James insisted. Let's hear her say it. Go ahead, Willie. Crouching on the floor, I lifted the rug. Look, guys, it's a hatch, I said with fake excitement, like we just discovered it for the first time. F-word slur, I'm not going to say it out loud on camera. Mina called him with her arms crossed. I rolled my eyes as I picked the smallest key out of my keychain and unlocked the hatch. Wow, James replied. I can't believe you use that slur when you're bisexual. You're going to call me an N-word too, since you're so edgy now? Dude, don't engage with her, I told him. She's poison. I stood up and flipped a switch on the wall, turning on the light down there. How do you expect me to climb down a ladder with my hands cupped behind my back, dumbass? Mina spat at me. Well, I was going to uncuff you, but since you reverted to name-calling, I'll just throw your ass down there. Grabbing her by her waist, I shoved her towards the pit. She squealed. But I didn't let her go, and she stumbled. Saved her life, I teased, forcing her to spin around so I could uncuff her. Ladies first, I gestured to the ladder with one hand while I pocketed the handcuffs with the other. Her gaze swept me up and down before replying, age before beauty. I turned to James. Stay up here. I want to talk to her in private. He pressed his lips together tightly, but shrugged. I descended the ladder. Mina came down after me. What did you want to talk to me about? She asked as soon as I reached the ground below. I tried to help her off the ladder, but she lashed her arms out, shoving me off her. Silence fell between us as Mina gazed upon the massive shelves that covered every inch of the walls down there. 2 shelving units were stocked full of non-perishable food and 5-gallon jugs of water. The other held other essentials such as basic toiletries, medical supplies, outdoor equipment, tents, and a water purifier. The bottom shelves of both were totes. On the bottom shelves of both were totes of old clothes, men's, women's, babies, kids, all sizes. Mina wandered around across the black and white checkerboard floors, which is that has a meaning behind it if you understand anything about the Illuminati. That is on purpose. And picked up, and that's not in the book. I told you that. And picked up the box of tampons, lined up on the shelf next to a box of diapers. With her distracted in her exploration, I was about to rush back up the ladder, but then she asked, So you're not planning on writing out end times alone? No, I replied with my back pressed against the ladder. Survival is only possible if a community of people works together. Wow, I guess you do have a heart after all. I'm surprised. She glanced over her shoulder at me as she put the box of tampons back on the shelf. The tone of her voice, the way she arched her back, she was up to something. I stayed quiet, trying to tune into her mind. Doing so took some more concentration than before. It was like I was too far away. I was only picking up static. Who are you going to repopulate Earth with, James? My mouth opened, but words refused to form coherently. She was obviously just screwing with my head. My only objective was to lock her ass in the bunker so James and I could get rid of Charles's body in peace. Why couldn't I bring myself to leave her? I'm sorry that I hurt you with the lid to the toilet tank. She baited me again while I hadn't responded to her question. Her alluring stare drew me in deeper. It's just what you said about you said my body was nothing special. Her dramatic pout reminded me of Willa's tendency to make exaggerated facial expressions. I couldn't help but chuckle. Really? That's why you tried to kill me? Her ability to lie to my face... Oh, this is Mina talking. Your ability to lie to my face made me feel like I couldn't trust you. Over her lacy dress, her fingertips softly caressed the curve of her waistline, moving down her chest and across her neck. I know you feel bad for what you did to me, so come over here and apologize. My rational brain urged me to hurry up the ladder, but my reptilian brain wanted to call her bluff and toy with her the way she was toying with me. I'm not a liar, baby. I pushed off the ladder and closed the distance between us. Mina maintained her game face as I caged her in with my hands on the shelf. So he's got, his arms around her, she's right here. But sometimes I speak in opposites. See, in, I don't know, it's either Wildest Dreams or Silent Screams. I don't know. I don't remember, honestly. I know I wrote the books, but, oh, yeah, Willis says something to him about speaking it up. I don't know. It's a callback to one of the previous books, okay? That's all you need to know. I don't remember exactly what the line of dialogue was there. But, yeah, it's a callback to a previous book. Looking her into the eyes in such close proximity, I finally saw what she was planning. As if sensing that I was onto her, her hand flew to the fire extinguisher. Instead of blasting me with it like she intended, she flung it in my direction. I blocked my face with my arm. My wrist bent backwards when the fire extinguisher struck me. She made a break for the ladder. I plucked her off the first rung and shoved her out of the way. I could only use one hand to climb. The little bitch broke my wrist, or at the very least sprained it. My healing process was sped up, but it didn't happen instantly. Climbing up right behind me, she somehow transcended the ladder and started climbing up my body. James's wide eyes watched in horror as I shook her off me, sending her into a free fall. I didn't need to see her to hit the floor to know she hit it hard. I heard the thud. That didn't stop her, though. She jumped right back up. James and I barely shut the trap door in time. It rattled as she pounded it. Right on! Her deep and throaty voice made her sound possessed. Tell me about George. I'm going to stab you 1,000,000 times like your mother stabbed your father. The door jumped with every pound she gave it. I'm going to cut off your dick, cook it in a skillet, and make you eat it out of my hand, you fucking bastard! Chapter 8. Underground Tunnels. Narrated by Reagan. It's wild how there's brief moments where she's human again, then she snaps right back into full feral mode, James said as we walked out of the shed, both carrying gasoline containers. Let's leave her down there till we figure out how to get her better half back, I suggested. He flashed me a skeptical look. There's food and water down there. We can give her a bucket to use as a toilet. Her parents and brother will be back in Freetown tomorrow, he told me. I stopped in my tracks. Brad probably wouldn't notice if his daughter was gone. Even if he did, he'd accept any lie I offered him. But the overbearing mother? That was an obstacle I hadn't anticipated facing. Yes, he acknowledged my displeasure. I fucking warned you that if you didn't tell Willa's parents about her suicide plan, I would. Linda's leaving Paul. She's moving back to Massachusetts. I cursed. Let's just get this over with already. As we walked back to where we parked, James and I argued about the best way to get rid of the body. Eager to be done with it, I wanted to send Charles's car into the lake in neutral with him in the trunk. We can't risk his body being discovered, James insisted, not after we framed him for Sue's murder. I didn't give a fuck what happened to me anymore, but apparently James cared enough for the both of us. I know Sue's death was on me, but I'm risking my ass to come out here and help you with this, James said. I spun that whole elaborate tale for the police. They ate it up. When he's declared missing, they'll assume he skipped town. All I wanted to do was be back at home alone with Mina. She was sure to be seething, which benefited me. I liked her angry. It was easier to be cruel to her when she was cruel to me. Now we have his car and his body to get rid of. I gestured to the Mazda. Take the Pontiac, is that how you call it? Pontiac Firebird out of your Faraday cage and park Charles's car in there. I scoffed. James's car won't run in a post-EMP, only diesel. Don't you fucking get it? James interrupted me. This is our apocalypse. None of your shit's gonna help us. The Faraday cage was once a garage that sat empty before I renovated it. I didn't worry about my grandpa poking his nose in the Faraday cage. He knew what I came out here for. He thought I was crazy, but he accepted it. Before the car switcheroo, we needed to get rid of the body. We drove Charles's car down a dirt path through the forest that led to a clearing. Ugh, James said in disgust when I popped open the trunk. Rigor mortis was already setting in. We could practically see the color of Charles's stiff corpse changing in color. See, this is why we were editing. We could see the color changing in color. Redundant much? Changing. You'd see the corpse. We can see the color of the corpse changing before our eyes. Together, James and I groaned as we pulled him out of the vehicle and set him in the grass. You lived in this man's house, I said, retrieving the gasoline containers from the back seat. Does this mean you're homeless now? No, James replied from behind me. Brittany said I can move in with her. It's only a 1-bedroom now. We're looking for a bigger place. So, quick note, if you don't know, Brittany is Miles's girlfriend. Miles is the hippie conspiracy theory guy who was kind of an internet celebrity for being a conspiracy theorist who got killed in the very beginning of Wildest Dreams. Raiden finds his body, and that's how this whole mess starts happening, and his demons come back to haunt him, and he thinks, he's diagnosed with schizophrenia, so at first in Wildest Dreams he thinks it's in his head, but like Colt really is after him, and now this is book 3, so he's accepted that fact. So anyway, Brittany is pregnant with Miles' child. Miles died like a few days ago from where this is taking place. We're looking for a bigger place. If you want to crash at my house and help me with Mina, you can. He took a canister from me. I really would. But Brittany being pregnant with Miles' baby, how do we know that Gerald and your mom won't come after her? We walked over to Charles and doused him from head to toe in gasoline. Plus, after what she mentioned about helping her with the baby, I think I should take up her offer to move in. I can control Mina. James snorted at my claim, glancing up at me from the body. But I don't like the person I have to be to maintain that control. I finished my statement, dropping the empty gasoline canister. What do you mean? His posture stiffened as he glared at me. I'll leave your ass out here with this clown, Charles, if I find out you really raped her. You know me better than anybody else, I said. I did lock her in Rocky's cage after she attacked me, and I feel bad about that. But I didn't know what else to do. James's brows creased. I didn't know y'all kept Rocky in a cage. I was sure he was going to keep trying to poke holes in my story. How was I supposed to explain that I bought the cage for Willa to appeal to her dehumanization kink? She's more likely to listen to you than me. He poured the last bit of gasoline on Charles's face and set the canister aside. She's been in love with you for years. Lean into that. Try being sweet to her. She'll get all abstract again. Then you won't have to treat her like an animal. If a man is sweet to a woman, she takes advantage. You're nice to your aunt. James extracted a Zippo lighter from his pocket. That's different. Watching James set the body ablaze, I got lost in my thoughts. I didn't have the capacity to be kind to Mina. She knew exactly what to say to trigger me. James went mute after setting Charles on fire, which made me paranoid. I couldn't tell if I was projecting my guilt onto him or if he seriously doubted me. We watched that motherfucker burn for at least an hour, and Charles still wasn't ash. I thought the fat on his body would have made him burn faster. Impatient, I suggested that we get back to the bunker and get a shovel to bury the rest of the remains. Honestly, I was eager to reunite with my foul-mouthed demon. Our connection had been severed for a while, and I was getting separation anxiety. I kept imagining that I'd get back to the bunker and she'd be gone. I'll go get it, James said, the fire reflecting in his brown eyes. Do you want me to bring Mina back over here with us, or leave her in the bunker? No, I replied the second he got his question. Now, I'll go get Mina and the shovel. I was already running in that direction before he could argue. Evil little demon. So there's asterisks, which means it's a scene break. So, he gets back to the shed / bunker where Mina is. Evil little demon, I sang, feeling the smile on my lips. As I crouched to unlock the hatch door. I opened it, and she sprang out at me, tackling me, making me lose my balance. I collapsed to my ass with her on my lap. It took my brain a couple seconds to register that she wasn't attacking me. Her trembling arms held onto me for dear life. For a moment, anyway. And then she slapped me across the face and called me an asshole. Bitch, I swore back at her like a knee-jerk reaction as I shoved her off me. You didn't hear me calling for help? Wide aqua eyes stared into my soul. They were a little glossy. Her full bottom lip trembled as she spoke. I was in the woods. I meant telepathically. Her brows pulled together. I know you want to send my soul back to hell, but I thought you at least cared about preserving the body. You're safe down there. I peered down in the hatch and gasped at what I saw. The demon destroyed my bunker. She knocked every one of the shelves down. What I wrote was, she knocked every shelf down. So we're editing. She knocked every shelf down. Hang on. I don't know why I wrote that twice. Shelf. She knocked every shelf down. And stacked everything she could together in a pile in the center of the room. There was someone else down here, she explained softly. There's another hatch door on the floor below. They were trying to open it. I looked at her, one corner of my mouth lifted in a smirk. Now I understood. She was manipulating me again, tricking me to go down there so she could lock the door behind me. Go down there and search that mess for my shovel, I replied. I'm not going back down there. I just told you the tunnels aren't sealed. How stupid do you think I am? I asked. Very, she sneered at me. I exhaled slowly to control my rage. Go get my motherfucking shovel. I'm not going back down there by myself. She shook her head. Please don't lock me down there again. Her throat moved as she swallowed. She's a good actress. She really appeared afraid. Too bad. I knew Mina well enough to know she wasn't afraid of anything. Please, Raiden, I swear to God, I heard people moving below my feet. I saw the floor move when someone tried to open up another secret hatch door. That's why I knocked the shelves down, to keep them from getting me.